social media obviously is a very sexy topic. I get asked to speak about social media quite a lot. But unfortunately, there's one thing that we have to do before we can get to the fun stuff. And that is to talk about not the fun stuff. I've been training real estate agents now, formally and informally, for over 5 years. The team I represent, we have 64 agents. And now I actually offer services to other agents. And I've gotten to know the real estate agent very, very well. And my goodness, we are an interesting bunch, aren't we? I'm one of them, so I can say that. I heard a quote the other day, and it said, life is sometimes amazing, and sometimes it's awful, and then sometimes it's amazing again. And in between the amazing and the awful, it's usually quite mundane. And I think the key to that is that most top real estate agents, they're successful not because of the highs of their career, certainly not because of the lows of their career, but because they just do the mundane work every single day. And it's not the social media sexy stuff. It's working. What is it working, guys? What do you think I'm going to say? The database. So it would be cruel of me to come up on stage and talk to you guys about social media and how you're going to win using social media if you don't have the fundamentals in place. And so I'm just quickly going to touch on what our team at REC Canada does every single year. I'll give you kind of the slightly easier version just so you can digest it for yourselves and then hopefully implement it in all of your businesses. But I think it's really important when you're looking at the database, first and foremost, actually, who here has a CRM? If you could put your hands up. Okay, most of you. If you didn't have your hands up, you need to get a CRM. Those of you who had their hands up, or maybe put your hands up for me again, if you actually open your CRM every single day. Okay, so as you guys can see, if you guys looked around, that's where the holes are for a lot of agents. And so if you're one of those people who's really using your CRM to its fullest, you're already probably going to be in the top 1% of real estate agents because most of us just simply are not using the database. It solves for mental bandwidth, right? The database tells you who you need to follow up with today. You can use automation so you're not sending out the same email again and again and again. You can use it to send mass emails to your database. You can use it to help the social media side, which I'll get into in a little bit. But just quickly, I'm going to give you a 33-point touch system that we use to contact our database 33 times a year. It's quite a fancy title. 33 times a year, okay? 26 emails are going to go out to your database. So every other week, you should be sending your database an email. Now, who's in your database? First and foremost, everyone says, oh, I update my database, but then I ask them this question. If you were to take out your phone and click the contacts button, how many names are in there? 200, 1,000, 2,000. Are all those people in your CRM? And the answer is always no. Oh, well, I have family in there. Does your family not buy real estate? Oh, that's my Uncle Charlie. He's weird. I'm not going to talk to Uncle Charlie. Well, Uncle Charlie might need to sell or buy real estate. And not even that. I think what we need to get around, our heads around, is that it's not about the individual's name. It's not about that one person that's in the database. It's that that person knows 200 people that know 200 people. So now your potential network is 40,000 people if I did the math correctly, but someone can correct me on that if I'm wrong. Okay, so it's not about the individual. It's about just putting names in the database and being top of mind to those people. How do you be top of mind? Social media. But how you also be top of mind is having people in your database and reaching out to them consistently. So that when they're at the water cooler at work and someone says, I'm thinking about selling my house, they're like, oh my God, you have to use my guy. You have to use my realtor. If you're not reaching out to them consistently though, unfortunately, they forget. They're not thinking about you as much as you think they're thinking about you. You might say, well, Uncle Charlie knows I'm a real estate agent. Yeah, but it's not top of mind. So you can be top of mind by being present on social media and by doing these things with the database. So 26 emails a year. Laura, where do I get the content for these emails? Well, Michelle's gonna come on after here and talk to you about AI. There's this beautiful little thing called ChatGPT. You plug in some information into ChatGPT and it spits out a wonderful blog for you. You read it to make sure it's accurate. It makes sense for Ontario. And then you send that to your database. Included in a database email, you might want to maybe send a little event invite. Okay, so that would be your other 4 touch points a year to your database, is hosting educational events. Now you might think, oh, Laura, I can't go up on stage and stand in front of a group of people and educate people on real estate. I don't know anything about selling real estate. Well, first and foremost, you do, because you're all real estate agents. So you know a lot more than you give yourselves credit for. And B, you don't need to even be the experts, because at your events, you're gonna bring on other professionals. Maybe you bring on your broker of record to talk about the current market, the status of the market. Maybe you bring on a mortgage broker to talk about how people can refinance their homes and pull equity out so that they can buy more property. Maybe you bring on a real estate lawyer to talk about common misconceptions about contracts, or a property manager to come and say, this is how you're gonna be a successful landlord, right? So we're trying to plant seeds in our database's mind, in our community's mind, about how they can really build wealth in real estate. And you can do that by educating them with your blogs. Okay, so the blogs can be in and around how to build wealth in real estate. So assume everyone in your database is a potential investor or a wannabe investor and they just don't know the information yet. So all your blogs they don't need to be around 3 ways to clean up your property for fall. And I know we send those out, right? But instead say, here's everything you need to know before purchasing a pre-construction condo. Maybe that's an event you could do as well. You bring on a developer or a representative from the developer. And trust me, guys, they're hungry to sell units right now. So if you host an event, chances are you could get a representative from a developer to talk about what people need to know about buying pre-construction condos as an investor. So what are we at now? 30, right? 26 emails, or 4 events. And then the last 3 are going to be every 4 months, you're actually gonna make phone calls into the database. Isn't that fun? I know we all hate making phone calls, but if the database is filled of our friends, our family, our ex-colleagues, the conversation doesn't have to go from, hey, stranger in my database, I don't remember how I got you here. Do you want to buy or sell real estate with me? I'm a real estate agent. Maybe you remember that. Instead, it can go, hey, I'm hosting an incredible event where I'm going to help people learn how to build wealth in real estate. I'm actually bringing on my mortgage broker, and he's going to really talk about how you can use your home as an ATM machine. Yeah, that's right, like pull out money and actually buy more property, because a lot of people, they actually have a ton of equity in their homes and they're not sure how to use it or what to do with it. So you can invite people to the event. If you don't have an event that's going on, another option for you, and I hope that you guys use this, is you have something that's called the concierge service division. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Concierge service division. And that conversation goes like this. Hi, Michelle. I know I haven't reached out to you in so long. I hope you're doing well. Look, I don't want to take up too much of your time today, but I just wanted to let you know I started this new division that I can't even really say properly, concierge service division. And really, it's the ability for you to reach out to me anytime if you need anything from a real estate perspective. So you need a plumber, you need an electrician, maybe you need a painter. I want you to feel like you can reach out to me, and I have all these people sourced for you. And I'll let you know, part of my network and who are the people you can use. Now that I have you on the phone, do you need someone like that? No? Awesome. Well, I just wanted to let you know that. Reach out anytime. But hey, again, now that I have you on the phone, where's your headspace at when it comes to real estate? And see how I said, where's your headspace at when it comes to real estate? I didn't say, hey, are you thinking about buying? Hey, are you thinking about selling? Hey, do you know someone who wants to buy or sell? I'm just asking them where their headspace is at. They can't say yes or no. They're going to say, well, and then let them talk. And what you're going to find is they're going to open up because they want to share where their headspace is at. Maybe they've been reading a lot of headlines and they have some inaccurate information. And it really opens up the conversation for you to say, hey, you know what might be useful, and what a lot of my investor clients take advantage of is, a 30 to 40-minute conversation where I get an idea of what it is you're trying to accomplish in real estate, show you how I might be able to help, because I can't help everybody. And if it's a match, we'll move to the next step. Does that sound like something you might like to do? Yes? Awesome. Let's book something in for next week. So see how that conversation is something that you can do with people in your database. You're not hounding them. You're not bothering them. You're providing value. So you're providing value in your emails because you're educating them. You're providing value in your events because, again, you're educating them. And then even on your conversation, you're providing them with value. Now, I know where people get stuck with the concierge service division. And it's not just because they can't say it. It's because they worry that, well, Laura, I don't have a plumber and electrician. Oh my God, what if they ask for a painter? Well, here's what you're going to say to them on the phone. If they say, actually, I'm so glad you reached out to me, which, guys, happens 0.01% of the time. But Laura, I'm so glad you reached out to me. I actually need a landscaper. Oh, that's fantastic. Remind me, what's the address that you live at again? Because maybe you didn't have that in your CRM, so now you get their address. So in case you want to send them something in the future, now you have their address. What kind of work is it that you're looking to do? I'm going to take some notes here before I introduce you to somebody, because I just want to make sure I'm putting you in touch with the right person. They're going to give you everything that they're looking to do. You'll say, okay, great. In about 3 business days, I'm going to send you an email with some contact information. I want you to reach out to those individuals yourself, because not everyone jives with everybody. So I'll provide you with some contact details, and you choose who you'd like to work with. And then now the work begins. Okay, so you don't need the people in your data, you don't need the service providers before you start making these calls. You need them only once they say they need someone. So now you go on this wonderful platform called Google, and you look up landscapers Toronto, landscapers Windsor, landscapers Sudbury, and you make a phone call to those individuals. The great news there is you're going to ask this person if they want more business. Most people would say yes. I imagine if anyone called you guys, you'd say, of course I want more business. Please introduce me to all your friends and family. Say, look, I don't want any kickbacks. I just want you to treat my clients with white gloves. Can you do that for me? They'll probably say, yes, I can. Now that I have you on the phone, Mr. and Mrs. Landscaper, I send out bi-weekly emails where I really educate people on how to build wealth in real estate. I'd really love to get your opinion or your feedback on some of the marketing that I'm doing. Do you mind if I add you to my list? And look at that. Now we've added one more person to the database. Because landscapers buy and sell real estate. Landscapers talk to other people. And they might recommend you, again, if you're top of mind. So the content, guys, means nothing if we don't have a system in place to even deal with the leads that we're going to get. And so that's why I wanted to spend the first part of this talk just hammering down some basic fundamentals of what you can do with your database and how often you can be reaching out to them and ways to do it that doesn't feel salesy. Because chances are, a lot of us, we don't call our database because we don't want to seem salesy, right? And the industry has changed. It's not like it used to be where we could just call people and say, hey, do you want to buy or sell? Now I get a phone call from a number I don't know. I'm not answering, right? So it's how can we bring extra value so that they do answer our phone calls? Okay, how I'm going to segue this into social media. I've been doing content pretty frequently and consistently now for about, I'll say 3 years. I've helped produce a podcast for over 4 years. That podcast is, I think we're at 260 episodes or something now. It has been an absolute game changer for not only the company I work for's business, but my own personal business. It's opened more doors than I can even understand. But when I talk to you guys about doing a podcast, because that's what I'd like you all to start, because it makes your lives a lot simpler, and I'm going to talk about how it makes your life simpler. But when I talk to people about doing a podcast, they get hung up on a lot of things, right? First and foremost, well, I don't like how I look. I don't like how I sound. I don't know enough about real estate. I don't understand technology. I don't know what the name should be of my podcast. I don't know what tech I need to buy. What camera should I get? Who do I have on my podcast? What do I do with my podcast? There's a lot of, I'm going to call them excuses, because they're all things that are solvable. But what it comes down to mostly is that there's an element of fear that's happening, and the fear is coming out as an excuse. I hear this often when I talk to realtors. Well, Laura, I'm a perfectionist. So that's why I don't want to send out emails to my database, because ChatGPT had a grammar error, and there's no way I'm sending out an email with a grammar error. I hate to break it to you guys, most people don't have proper grammar anyway. You don't even know how many times you make mistakes every single day. And your clients don't even know that they're grammar mistakes most of the time. Now, I'm not suggesting that you start sending out emails with lots of spelling mistakes in them, but understand that people aren't focused as much on you as you think they are. And your clients are not going to not use you because of a simple mistake, or because you didn't have the best podcast name, or because the lighting wasn't the best lighting. I think what it comes down to is that we fear judgment in people, right? We fear that they're going to look at us and they're going to think we're stupid or that we're ugly. And I know we're a bunch of adults here, but there's that person inside of us that really is just the kid in the schoolyard who's just trying to fit in. And we're all just trying to fit in. But in us trying to do that, unfortunately, we stop ourselves from pursuing our dreams. We stop ourselves from doing the work that needs to be done so that we can actually have a thriving business, so that we can actually be consistent every year and every month and hopefully have some cash flow for once, versus what normally happens, which is, oh my God, I did a deal. Now I'm off to Florida. Holy shit, I have no money. Let me work again. Right? We know this. This is our lives. And I've been there too, so I completely get it. And I didn't realize it was fear, because I am a recovering perfectionist myself. But I now have realized that by me saying that, it's because I fear the judgment of others. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you guys about how you can create a podcast and how you can do it pretty easily so that you have consistent content. But understand that whatever's going through your head on the whys and the reasons that you can't do it is probably most likely coming from a place of fear. So if we can just say, I'm afraid, let me at least label it correctly. I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because confidence doesn't come first. Laura, I'll wait till I'm confident to do it. I'll wait until I've been in the business for 3 more years, and then I'll do it. The confidence comes after you do it. You guys all remember your first deal, right? Scared shitless the first time you did a deal. How do I fill out this paperwork? What if I ruin their lives and they bought the wrong house? And what if I lose their deposits? That shit was scary. But you did it, and then you got confident. So the same thing goes with a podcast, a YouTube show. You're not going to be confident at the start. But I'm telling you that if you do it and you put in the reps again and again and again, you will get confident. And once you're on the other side of that, and once you feel that you can put yourself out there to the world and be vulnerable, it's a very, very lovely, peaceful place to be. So I hope that at least one of you, who's going to be the one that actually takes some of my advice today and does it? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, good. Sometimes nobody puts their hand up. Everyone's like, no, I'm not doing this. So I appreciate that. Okay. So how do we produce content consistently? Now, when I say you're going to have a podcast show, first and foremost, let me get this out of the way. I'm not trying to teach you guys how to become Joe Rogan. This isn't about becoming the best podcast in the nation. This isn't about putting content on TikTok and having 60,000 followers, and now people give me money so I post their products as like an influencer or something. If you only have 300 people in your CRM and you only have 300 followers on Instagram, and they're the same people, that's all I really care about. Because I care about you having viewers and engaged listeners and watchers, right? With people who are actually going to transact with you. If the realtor down in Texas follows you, they're not going to buy real estate from you. So this isn't about likes, and this isn't about followers. This is about connecting with your database. So it doesn't need to be big. Use the podcast as a tool to be in front of your audience, the audience that might actually transact with you, and as an opportunity to help educate and maybe inspire people to buy more real estate. As investors, we recommend you don't sell. We recommend you buy more. So that's the great part when you start talking the investor language and you start assuming that everyone in the room, when you host an event, is a potential investor. They get inspired. You plant a seed in their mind and they start looking around the room like, oh my God, am I going to be in this rat race forever? I don't want to be in the rat race. This person that's sitting at the other table, they're going to buy real estate. And I'm getting FOMO because they're doing something and I'm not doing it. And you start to inspire people. And you can do that through your events and you can do it through social media content. Okay, so the podcast. Super easy. The podcast is really just a macro piece of content. And when I say podcast, that's technically an audio platform. But when I mean podcast, I mean like a show, okay? And you're going to record the show. How you're going to record the show is you're going to use Zoom. Does anyone here not know how to use Zoom? Okay, so no excuses now, right? I didn't say buy a camera and all this fancy equipment. Just Zoom. Just log into your Zoom account, okay? You're going to send a guest, a real estate lawyer, your broker of record, your landscaper, property management. So see how these things start to layer on top? It's the same people. You're going to have the same conversations with the people on your podcast that you're going to do when you bring people in person to your events. But now you have it recorded and you can do fun stuff with that. So you're going to send them the Zoom link. They're going to come on. You're going to have a 30 to 40-minute conversation. Come at the conversation with a sense of curiosity. Well, landscaper, maybe you could tell me what actually does help a home appreciate? Or what are people looking for when they're looking to flip their home? What kind of renovations should they be doing? Right? So you're just going to have a conversation. You can have a couple bullet points, but what I would try not to do is script the whole thing out. So what happens when you script the whole thing out, if you make one single mistake and you go off script, you're screwed because you've memorized it. If I came up here and I memorized my script, I've already messed up so many times today, but you guys don't know I messed up, or maybe you do. But you guys don't know. You don't know what I was going to say and the order I was going to do things in. Right? So the same thing goes for your Zoom conversation. So 30 to 40 minutes, you're going to have a conversation with the idea of how can I help bring value to my database. So you're going to have that conversation. The great thing about Zoom is it strips out the audio version file for you. You're going to take that audio file and you're going to upload it to a software called Libsyn. Maybe it's a software. I'm looking at Nikki in the back. Is that a software? He's giving me the thumbs up. See, I don't even know the technological terms. I know it's called Libsyn. Libsyn. Libsyn is going to distribute your audio version of your podcast to all podcasting platforms. So you don't need to log into Spotify and post it there. You don't need to log into Apple Podcasts and post it there. Libsyn distributes it to all podcasting platforms. So now you have an audio podcast. Then you're going to take that audio and you're going to upload it to another piece of software called Trint. Trint. And what Trint is going to do, it's going to transcribe the audio. And when I say transcribe, I mean it's going to give you the written word of everything that was said. It will literally say at 3 minutes and 32 seconds, speaker 2 said, and it's going to write it out. Now what I want you to do is read that through a little bit, take out the ums and the ahs and the like, when you said that 16 times. Take that out, put a little caption on the top and say, my conversation with broker of record. And now you have a blog. So you don't even need ChatGPT. I just gave you a blog. And now you're going to send that in an email to your database. That could be your blog that week, okay? What you can also do with the written word is now we're going to get real technical. You can upload that full blog as an article on LinkedIn. Okay, you guys should be on LinkedIn as well. It's not just about Instagram. I know we all love the gram, but LinkedIn, you get business there as well. Upload that as an article on LinkedIn. What else you could do? If you said a sentence where you're like, that was the best freaking sentence, I'm so smart. Look at what I said here. You're going to chop up that sentence, and you're going to tweet it or X it, or what is it called now, whatever we're doing with it. We'll call it tweet. You're going to go on Twitter, and you're going to tweet that. Maybe you're going to go on Threads, because you got a Threads account. If you don't know what Threads is, it's the Twitter version for Instagram, and you're going to post it there too. And then what you can do is you can take a little screenshot of your tweet, crop it, make a little picture, and now you can post that picture on Instagram. Maybe you post that on Facebook with a little blurb right up. So from one podcast, I've already given you 5 pieces of content just from that, right? Now, on the flip side, Zoom has also provided us with the video recording of our podcast. So the good news is we're going to take that video recording and we're going to upload it to YouTube. Now you have a YouTube show as well. What you can do, if you guys are savvy and you know how to edit videos, you're going to chop up your podcast into 5, 6, 7 pieces of content for all platforms. If you're not savvy, do not waste your time. I'm telling you, your money is better spent on hiring someone, finding a niece, a nephew, anybody around. Nikki here, there's people around at the back. I got hands being raised. People want to help you cut your content. There's Fiverr. You could bribe people, whatever you need to do. But don't waste your time watching YouTube videos, learning how to edit content in Adobe Pro. I'm telling you, you guys, your time is better spent meeting new people, having new conversations, updating your CRM, anything else but cutting content. Okay? So we're gonna chop that up into, again, 5 or 6 pieces of content. Anything less than a minute, I think, can go on all platforms. Less than a minute and a half can go on all platforms with the exception of YouTube Shorts. So ideally, you want to find 1-minute clips from your podcast. So now I've given you from one podcast recording that took 30 to 40 minutes. So now you have about 2 weeks worth of content where you don't have to worry about anything. All that you needed to do was set up a Zoom recording, reach out to your broker of record or a lawyer or a mortgage person, book the conversation, maybe do 20 minutes of prep work just so you know where you want to take the conversation, and the next 2 weeks of your life, your social media content's done. I'll add on one more thing. Besides the blog, it's also advantageous for you guys to send the recording, the video recording, or the audio recording to your database as well. So maybe 1 week you have a blog that you did a couple weeks ago, and then next week you do your most recent recording so that you're not doubling up on all the information again and again, and you kind of start to spread it around. But you can see how, do you guys understand, right? I feel like I'm getting some blank stares. Are people overwhelmed here? Are we overwhelmed yet? We've given up before we even got started. It can be really, really fun once you get the hang of it, okay? I put this here, this image up, so if you guys scan that QR code, we actually have a guide in our resources there that is going to go over everything that I just said again, because I go over it very, very quickly, and I know it can be overwhelming. When I started a podcast in 2018, I didn't even know what a podcast was. Podcasting was not the cool thing in Canada at that time. So my business partner said, Laura, I wanted to start this thing called a podcast. And I was like, what's that? What's a podcast? He said, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. And I spent the next weekend YouTubing how to start a podcast. I figured out how to put audio on my podcast. I figured out Libsyn. I figured out how to record a podcast and change all the audio. So that's what I did all weekend, and then I spent the whole week editing the video, and I figured it out. Now I'm telling you guys, learn from my mistakes, just hire someone else to do this. But understandably, when you're doing something new, you might not have the money. You might not even know if you like it. It's only once you've done it every other week for years that you might say, you know what, maybe I should invest in a Nikki. Maybe now is the time to invest in some cameras. Maybe I can get better with the lighting. Maybe the audio isn't that good. And the great news here, guys, is when you're talking to your database, because I told you you're calling them 3 times a year, Ask for their feedback. Hey, I don't know if you know this, but I have a podcast show where I'm educating people on how to build wealth in real estate. Have you had a chance to take a look at it? No? Oh my gosh. You got to check it out. Do you ever go on YouTube? Yes? I'll wait. Bring YouTube up. Find me here. I'd really love your feedback. See, when you're asking people for their feedback, they're more likely to do something because people love to give their feedback, right? You guys are probably going to give your feedback about this event when you go back to your offices. Oh, how was it? Oh, it was totally worth going. You should definitely come this year is hopefully what you're all going to say. We love giving our feedback. So this is an opportunity to get feedback from your clients. Do not make the mistake, though, of starting a podcast and then telling nobody about it. The biggest mistake I see people make is they start the podcast, and I'm so grateful that they actually did because they're already one more person with a podcast that most real estate agents are not willing to do. So I'm always happy about it. We got there. We started the podcast. That's amazing. But Laura, I only have one viewer, and it's my mom. Cool. That's where I started too. I made my mom and my husband all watch it so I could get 2 views, and then I would secretly go watch it so I'd get 3 views. You can't be a secret agent, and you can't be a secret podcasting host. You have to get loud about it. So, of course, everything that you put online is going to direct people to the podcast. But when you're talking to people face to face, you're here at this event next year, you tell people, I actually started a podcast. I want your feedback. Can you let me know what you think of it? Okay? Ask for people's feedback. That's how you're going to get their buy-in. More likely to get their buy-in. So I have about 10 more minutes until I'm going into Q&A. So I just wanted to touch on something that I think is really, really important. And that is that if you guys feel overwhelmed, just know that everyone is likely overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed too, like I said. I didn't know my head from my ass, to be blatantly clear, when I was starting a podcast. And it's not because the podcast has made me famous, but by any means. In fact, I've had some very, very big names on that podcast that I helped produce. Ryan Serhant, Tracy Tudor, James Harris, Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk, Patrick Bet-David, big names. Those were not the people that ever put any money in my pocket. In fact, they took money out of my pocket, okay? So it's not like you guys have to get big name people for your podcasts. That looks sexy and it looks cool when you post it and people say, oh, that's cool, you got someone like that. It is actually the regular conversations where you're going to be educating people that put real dollars in your pocket because they result in real transactions. Our best podcast to date is a 40-minute conversation with a lovely woman named Sue. She owns a No Frills. She's in her 50s. She went from 0 properties to 11 properties in 2 years. And she comes on our podcast and she tells that story. And that story inspires other people. The reason why Grant Cardone doesn't inspire other people is because people can't see themselves in him. He's too far from them. And that's when people start to go with the excuses. Well, he had a silver spoon. Well, whatever the excuse is as to why he's rich and they're not. But they go down the excuse road. But they see someone like Sue, and they say, just a regular person? I have police men and women. I have nurses. I have teachers in my database who have multiple properties. And they buy because they see regular folk doing it, and they now realize that they can do it too. And so your job is to help inspire people, okay? So don't feel like you have to get all these big names. Don't feel like you have to have 20,000 views. I'm telling you, you just need some solid content where people either talk about the mindset around investing in real estate or the actual how-tos. And then that is going to help other people see that maybe this is possible for someone like me too. I actually get phone calls and people don't know. They're like, Laura, there was this podcast that you guys did, and there was this woman on it. I don't know, she owns like a Loblaws. Like, they don't even get it right. She owns a No Frills. She owns like a Loblaws at a grocery store. I think she has 7 properties. No, she owns 11 properties, and it was in the title, but that's okay. They don't remember the actual facts, but they remember how that podcast made them feel. And then they reach out and they say, I want to figure out how to do that too. And I get inbound calls because of that. And that's when I go down the path of the perfect. So what I do with my clients is I set up a 30 to 40 minute conversation where I get an idea of what it is you're trying to accomplish in real estate. I show you how I might be able to help, because I can't help everybody. And if it's a match, we'll move to the next step. So you guys hopefully start to see how we can start layering these things one on top of the other. Also know, guys, when it comes to reaching out to potential guests to be on your podcast, it might be hard at first, because first and foremost, people don't like to be the guinea pig always. So reach out to the easy people, the people that owe you something. Maybe your lawyer owes you something for once because you give them so much business. So you say, lawyer, you owe me this. You're going to be a guest on my podcast, and we're going to do more business, and you're going to get the business. But at some point, when you're trying to get other people, you're going to have to reach out again and again and again. So just like your database, right? How your database is going to track how often you reach out to people, when you should send emails, when you should call people. You want to start tracking people that you're asking to be on your podcast, because you want to make sure that you remember to follow up. Grant Cardone took us 2 years to get. 2 years. And his assistant wrote back and said, Grant has finally said yes to being on your podcast because you were so relentless in your follow-up. So don't think you're going to get lucky and hit it out of the park the first time. People are busy. People have other things going on. People are also scared. If you guys are scared to be on a podcast, well, chances are your mortgage broker or lawyer is also scared to be on the podcast. So it's your job to make them feel comfortable, to welcome them, to make it feel easy. If they say, Laura, please send me all of the details before. I get this one a lot. Send me all of the questions that you want before. I always say, I don't actually operate like that. What I really want is for us to just have a really open conversation about mortgages and everything that's going on. And I know this is what you do for a living, so you're going to be fine. We're just going to have a chat, just as if we were chatting on the phone. Okay, so make people feel warm and welcome also and I know that's actually what real estate agents do best. We're really good at that. Now, the other option is, and here's where you're going to maybe come to a bit of a standstill. At some point, you might say, Laura, there's just simply not enough topics. Or I just did the lawyer, and I don't want to do a lawyer again. What else can I do? My recommendation is that you call your podcast the Your Name Podcast. So now we got that out of the way. Everyone has their podcast name. Guess what my podcast name is? The Laura Show. So the Your Name Show or the Your Name Podcast, okay? And the reason you do that is because if you name it the Windsor Real Estate Podcast, people have an expectation of what it is that you're going to talk about on that podcast, which is hopefully Windsor and real estate. So it's very niche. My recommendation to you would be, if you name it after yourself, you can talk about anything that you'd like, which means sometimes you're going to talk about real estate, and I do recommend that maybe 60 to 70% of your episodes be about real estate. But here's the thing. How often, you guys might be able to answer this for me, how often do people sell their homes? Is it 5 to 7 years, I think is still the average? 7? Thank you. 7 years. So if you just help someone buy or sell a home, what are the odds of them doing anything with you for 7 years? Not very high, unless you start teaching them how to become an investor. But let's say they don't want to be an investor, and they just bought a home. Well, why are they going to watch your content if it's only about real estate? Because they're not interested in real estate right now. Like when I got married 10 years ago, everything I wanted to look at online was wedding everything. Wedding, wedding, wedding. Pinterest wedding, Instagram wedding, shows about weddings. I haven't looked at a single wedding post now since I got married. Right? So same thing with real estate. We only want that content when we need it. So now our job is to try to think of creative ways on how we can be top of mind, how we can entertain our community without talking about real estate. So one of the ways you can do that is to talk about other passions that you have. You might be able to do that through your podcast. Maybe you bring on a nutritionist because you're super into nutrition. Maybe you bring on a psychologist because you're really interested in parenting. Maybe it's a parenting psychologist or a children's psychologist. Maybe you bring on a coach of some sort, a life coach. Whatever your other passions and hobbies are things that you should also be talking about because you want to be top of mind. You want them to still want to engage with you, but they don't want to engage with the real estate content. But you want to be top of mind so that when they're at the office and they're getting water and someone says, I'm about to sell my home. Oh my God, I just was watching my real estate agent this morning. I don't know, he was doing some cooking show. It was really cool. But yeah, you got to use him. Okay, so make the content fun. And the good news is when the content is fun and you're talking about your actual passions, who here, their number one passion in life is real estate? It's okay. That was not a trick question. I knew that the answer was going to be very few of you because most people were doing this to make a living, and that's okay. But when we're doing something to make a living and we're not passionate about it and it's not our why in life, that's when we get burnt out. That's when things get hard. That's when content becomes not fun because we're doing it as a job. But if you start talking about other things that you're passionate about, luckily, you want to do it because you'd be reading articles on parenting anyways. You'd be reading things about cooking anyways. So now you're just going to show the world what some of your likes and dislikes are. Here's the caveat though. What stops people from doing this is because A, they have two different Instagram accounts. They have one for personal and one for work. And they're like, well, it doesn't make sense for me to talk about personal stuff on my work page. I agree. So I would probably try to go down to one Instagram page and let people see the real you. You don't just have to be the realtor. You're the realtor, comma, mom, comma, dog lover, comma, travel enthusiast, comma, fashionista, whatever it is. And you're gonna start to create content that's fun for you. And you're gonna start to engage with your community. Now, some people might not like it, because maybe, just thinking of a hot topic, you're really into politics, and you wanna do a podcast on politics. I hear you. I wouldn't, but I don't care about politics. But if you really did, and that's truly your passion of yours, I actually think you should lean into it. Understand that you're gonna lose people. Understand that people might call you and say, get me out of your database. I disagree with you. I don't like this. I'm not here for it. Great. I'm so sorry that we couldn't do business together, but I completely understand, and delete them from the database. And you move on with life. Because life is too short for you to pretend to be somebody just to get a paycheck. Instead, you're gonna produce content and maybe you're gonna talk about politics, and then what you're gonna find is that there's a lot of people out there in the world who actually agree with your politics. And you start to do business with them. And now when you're driving around from property to property to property to, in the car, instead of being like, oh my God, when is this gonna be over? This is so boring, you'll just talk politics the whole time. And real estate will be a byproduct of you creating real relationships with real people. But you have to understand that you have to come from the mindset of the principles of plenty. There is so much real estate to go around. Look, like we are surrounded by real estate. So you don't have to keep the cards close to your chest. You can give away all the trade secrets through your content. And you can lose people along the way. Because by losing the 3 people who don't like you, you're gonna find the 10 that love you. And it's much better to do business with people who actually truly know you, who truly like you, and who truly trust you. I'm going to leave it at that. I hope it was valuable today. I'm here for about 12 minutes. If people have any questions about this macro to micro approach or the database or anything at all, we can talk fashion if you want. Whatever you guys need. I'm sure there are some burning questions. There's no dumb questions, guys. Yep.
You're talking about communicating with your database. Have you in the past or any of your clients that you train gone into their database and found out if anybody in their database would be a good possibility to be on the podcast?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So the Sue guest that we had, she was in our database. So your database probably has a lot of the people you'd need. Look at their professions. Think, how can I have an interesting conversation with this person, right? Maybe they're investors and you want to inspire, or maybe they're first-time home buyers and you bring them on to tell the story about their first-time home buying purchase. How scared were they? What information did they have to get set up before that they could even start shopping? Who did they need on their team? Well, of course I needed a real estate like you, but I also needed a lawyer, a mortgage broker, right? So there's tons of value in the database. The database is everything to us, to me. It should be everything to you guys because you'll keep all the information. You literally go through every single name. Could this be a potential person that could be a guest on my podcast? I also think it's really important, guys, you do this exercise and then follow everyone in your database online. Because you want more followers, well, go actively seek them out. Follow your clients online and to take it one step further. Not just like a post that they post, but maybe write them a little comment like, oh, that looks like a great meal. Oh, your dog's so cute. I have a dog too. Oh my gosh, your daughter's 13 already. I can't even believe it. What a fantastic birthday party. Who did you use to throw the birthday party? Get that information, because if someone calls you and say, I actually need to throw a birthday party, do you know anyone like that? Well, now you know somebody. But by giving online, you start reciprocity, right? So you give to get. So you start writing nice things to your clients. Well, guess what? They're going to start writing nice things now to you. And other people are going to see that people wrote nice things to you. And then they'll start writing nice things to you. So the database, yes, can be your real solution for everything. That's my long-winded answer. But yes, the database is key. Yeah, Michelle?
So thinking about it in reverse, what about those people that you connected with online that are not in your database?
Yeah, great question. To me, online is kind of like dating. It's the place that you start, okay? So online is kind of like, hey, should we grab some coffee? And then you have a 30-minute coffee date. And then hopefully they like the coffee date. And then you say, hey, maybe we can go for dinner. Can I get your email address? You get their email address. Now you can start sending them emails. Okay? Hey, I'm just reaching out about the concierge service, but while we're chatting, like, where's your headspace about real estate? And then they're like, oh, actually, I'm thinking about buying more property. I don't really know where to start. And then that's your home run, right? So your goal at minimum should not always be like, can I get your email address? Can I get your email address? If you're getting friction with people, just get them to follow you online. Because once they start following you online, the chances of them actually engaging with the content goes up. Then they might reach out and say, look, I really like what you're doing. Maybe we could set up a consultation. Or maybe every now and then you do a post that asks people if they'd like to have a 30 to 40-minute business consultation, right? So then you move them slowly but surely down the buying path. But it always usually starts at social media. Now, some people, you just get their email address, which is great. I mean, add them to social, but you're already one step further. You're already at the dinner date at that point, right? So make sure that you're starting off right at the front. I also should mention, guys, if the podcast was way too overwhelming, one place you might want to start with your content online is just doing tips, right? Taking your phone out and doing selfie tips. Here's 3 things you need to know before you buy real estate. Here's what the change in interest rates mean for you. Those types of tips. Our academy if you guys don't mind, actually, if you could do me a favor, take your phones out, go to Instagram for me, and go to FTGU_Academy, Nikki, or _FTGU? FTGU_Academy. That is our Academy page. If you don't mind, give me a little follow just so I feel like I did a good job today. But more importantly, on that page, guys, we post topics for you to do. So if you're like, I just don't feel inspired and I don't know about this podcasting stuff. I mean, I can't even get over the fear of doing a selfie video yet. Maybe that's where you start. But we're going to give you topics on that channel. So literally you just go there, say what topic are they telling me to do, and then you shoot your version of the topic. Right? So that's also something that you guys can do. But sorry, again, another long-winded answer to say that that's the place you start. And I think if you guys start educating people online because you're scared to ask for their email address or their phone number, or that feels invasive, that's a great first place to start. And then we need to move them out of Instagram at some point, and we need to move them out of Facebook at some point, and we need to get them in our CRM. Does that answer the question? Anything else, guys? I guess I did a really good job, maybe? Yeah.
What kind of permissions do you have to get to let people produce this stuff and send it out?
Great question. I think this is one of those moments in life where we tend to overthink things.
I do that a lot.
Yes, I can tell. I can tell. You've gone to worst case scenario. Someone's now like suing you because you repurposed their content. I've been doing this for 4 years. I don't send out a formal email that they have to sign off. I'm not saying I shouldn't do that. I probably should do that. But those things tend to stop people in their tracks from doing, right? So that's something that my team will probably add on in the future. But there's obviously correspondence going back and forth with you and the person, asking them like, hey, do you want to be on my show? They understand they're coming on a podcast show. I let them know it's going to be on YouTube. I usually also, when they come to sit down, say, hey, like we're going to cut this and it's going to be on. So I say it verbally and they say, okay. I don't have a formal contract. You could if you're really, really nervous about it. But if that's the thing that stops you from doing it, I'm just here to tell you it's just not that important. It's just not. Now, maybe if you had someone a little more famous on your episode, they actually might do it, right? They might send you something the other way. We had Robert Kiyosaki. Do you guys know who that is? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We had him on our podcast, and we had to sign an engagement letter with his team. They wanted to see all the footage first before we posted everything. That's happened one time after 250 episodes, only one person. So I think just get started, have fun with it. Hopefully the lawyer's not gonna sue you. I mean, they could, and they could probably do a pretty good job, but you know, they want exposure too. And here's the thing, most people don't get asked to be on podcasts, right? So they're flattered. They're like, you want little old me to be on your podcast? I would love to be. I'm just wow, I was just a stay-at-home mom who then got a divorce, and then I bought a property by myself, and you want to hear that story because you're hoping to inspire other women? Wow, I would love to do that, right? So that's mostly what you get. Other questions? Yeah?
Is the first step to get comfortable in front of camera before we get to podcast level, or you can straight go into that?
I think you can go straight into it because I'm telling you to do Zoom. So Zoom seems we're all a little bit more comfortable with Zoom. Having a camera set up like this might be a stretch for a lot of people, right? Because they're not used to it yet. So that might be the best place to start. I actually started with an audio-only podcast because I was scared to be on camera. I prefer if you didn't start that way because you can't chop and dice it and do all the fun things with it. But guys, if this is so nerve-wracking that you're literally gonna pass out, you don't need to do content this way. You could tell content through pictures, tell content through blog write-ups. Regardless, you do need an element of vulnerability because writing a blog still makes you vulnerable, right? Because you're still putting your name on something and someone might disagree with it. Or if you like taking pictures and you post all these pictures of birds, maybe someone will be like, you're not a very good photographer. That might happen. And now you're like, oh no, now I feel bad about myself. But I'm urging everyone to kind of get out whatever their comfort zone is, just move to the next step. So if you can't do the podcast because you don't want to commit to a show, start with the short form content, with the tips. If you can't do that, maybe start with pictures. Can't start with that, start with a blog. Wherever you're at, just start. Just start, move to the next step. And like I said earlier, nobody is thinking about you as much as you think they're thinking about you. At best, you are a supporting actor or actress in everyone else's life. Your spouse right now is probably not even thinking about you. Because I know you weren't just thinking about your spouse until I told you to think about your spouse. So at best, you're a supporting actor or actress in their life. So we think that everyone is like, oh my God, my hair was out of place and now they're judging me. They might be judging you, because we do that all the time, right? We scroll and we're like, oh, Laura's looking not great today. But then we scroll past it and then we go judge the next person, because we're all assholes. No, what it really comes down to is that we're critical of ourselves. And judging other people makes us feel better about ourselves. And so if you start to put out content and you start to be kind to yourself and you start to say, I'm good enough, I love myself, I can do this today, or I think I can do it, and it might suck, but it's okay. Everyone sucks at first. Everyone sucks at the start. And the good news is nobody's watching at the start anyway, except for mom. And she loves you no matter what. So just start, move to the next step, okay? Anything else?
I was just curious, how big is your database?
So our database now sits at 11,400. So it's grown substantially over, since 2017 we had just over 3,000 people in the database. So in that time we've grown it substantially. We've done that a lot through content, a lot through events, going to investor meetups and things like that, but also the phone calls. So we started implementing that concierge service phone call. I can't say that, concierge service phone call, probably 3 years ago. And that was really the ticket for us because it gave us a reason to reach out to people. And now we've been top of mind, so we get way more referrals. So we don't work any cold leads. And B, I would just urge you to start meeting people, right? Start meeting people. Now that you know that you're gonna start giving value on phone calls and emails versus asking them to buy or sell, buy or sell, buy or sell, you don't need to feel bad about asking people to be in there. You're educating them. You're bringing them true value. If you're gonna host an educational event, tell people to bring friends. Bring your friends. You want them to learn this too, right? And it starts to kind of grow. When you feel confident about the content that you're putting out via email, events, or social media, when you're confident about it and you believe in it, like this is actual, how long have you been in the business?
Just over a year.
Oh, just over a year. Okay, I know I'm out of time, but over a year, I love the newbies. I love the newbies because no one wants to do content because they're like, oh my God, I don't know anything yet. So when you're new to real estate, what I don't want you to do is go online and start lying to everybody. Here's how you're gonna grow. Here's how you're gonna make millions. Here's how I sold multiplexes when you've never sold a multiplex. I want you to be honest with your audience. And I want you to say to people, guys, I just started this new Instagram channel, YouTube channel, Facebook channel. And my goal here is really to start educating you guys on how to build wealth in real estate. Now, I'm a brand new agent, and so I'm learning a lot myself. And I want you guys to come along the ride with me. So when I learn something, I'm gonna share it with you. And then the next day you say, I was just talking to a real estate lawyer yesterday, and he told me about the 3 things that he thinks people should be informed about when reading over their agreement to purchase and sale. Do you see how that now edifies you? Because A, you know lawyers, you're actively in the business, but you're not lying to people saying that all the knowledge is coming from you. And here's the good news. People love a come-up story, right? Society's really good at building people up, kicking them down, and then building them back up again. But right now, you're down here. And people love to be part of that. You know, it's like people who knew Drake before Drake was Drake. Oh, you're only following him now because he's cool, but I was a fan since 2003 when he was on Degrassi or whatever, right? We love to know people before they were somebody. So now you're giving people the actual opportunity to be part of your come-up story. But I think if you're honest about it, it'll just come across a lot easier. Cool? We'll leave it there today. Hope that was valuable, guys. Thank you. Thanks so much.